another UFC breakdown. We got what's going on this week. I know the finals were coming up. I fucking botched the semifinals, so I didn't even fucking bother with doing the finals. I'm kind of pissed about it being Golden State and Boston anyway. But we jump straight into things here with MMA. UFC Vegas 56 coming up this weekend. Alexander Volkov taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik, however the fuck you want to say his name. Volkov comes into this fight slight favorite. He is 34-10. Man, it's going to piss me off. Hold on. 34-10 professional record, 22 wins by knockout for Volkov. He lost his last fight via submission to Tom Aspinall in the first round when they fought. He's 8-4 in the UFC. And he's currently 2-2 in his last 4 fights. He's a former M1 Global and Bellator heavyweight champion. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's coming into this fight with a 5-inch height and a 2-inch reach advantage over Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik, decorated kickboxer, 76-8-1 professional kickboxing record, 64 of those wins via knockout. He's 12-3 in MMA, 11 wins by knockout. He's 6-3 in the UFC, and he's 2-3 in the last 2 years. His UFC wins include Arndar Larski, Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos, and Augusto Sakai being his most recent. Like I said, really good kickboxer. Alexander Volkov, pretty much that's what he does. He's a long, lanky guy, so if he gets on the ground, he could wrap his long limbs around you. But for the most part, this is more than likely going to be a stand-up kickboxing match. With that being said, Rozenstruik has a really, really good chance because he's a well-decorated kickboxer. And, you know, Volkov has known to leave himself susceptible later in the fights as he gets tired. We know this because he beat Derek Lewis for almost 90% of their fight, and then got knocked out in the last minute of the fight just for keeping his hands low. If you do that against Rozenstruik, you're going to get picked apart. So I know Volkov more than likely has learned from his mistakes, and he will more than likely come in a lot sharper, keep his hands up, and kind of be out of the way of most of those strikes. But on the off chance he doesn't, I got Rozenstruik via knockout. Dan Ige, Movsar Evloev in the co-main event. This is a big one. Evloev coming in minus 425 favorite. That's crazy. Dan Ige, although he has landed on the rough patch as of recent, losing a 2-fight losing streak to Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, and Josh Emmett, he's 15-5. He's never been finished in his professional career. 9 out of 15 of his wins are finishes. 4 by knockout, 5 by submission. 7-4 in the UFC. 1-3 in his last 4 fights. That's the kicker right there, because before this last 4 fights, he was 6-1 in the UFC, and he was killing it. He's got UFC wins over Gavin Tucker, Edson Barbosa, Mirsad Bektic, and Jordan Griffin. Former Division II wrestler, black belt in jiu-jitsu, brown belt in judo. Very capable of getting the fight to the ground. Very capable of finishing the fight once it gets to the ground. And even more capable of holding you down if he gets you to the ground. So, ground game, I would say Ige should have a tremendous advantage. But he's going up against a guy like Movsar Evloev, who has a master of sport in Greco-Roman wrestling. He's 15-0. Most of his wins come from taking you down and holding you down. Like I said, 15-0 as a pro. 8 of those wins via decision. 5-0 in the UFC. He's got wins over Hakeem Dawandu, Nick Lentz, Mike Grundy, and Enrique Barloza. He's a former M1 Global Bantamweight champion. Overall, I'd say this is what the biggest difference is. And me and my buddy Ian talked about this the other day, that, high school, college wrestlers, how much of that translates, how it depends on how much you train wrestling after those things. But if you just take the 2 accolades that these 2 gentlemen have prior to their UFC careers, and one of them was a master of sport in Greco-Roman wrestling, and the other one was a Division II NCAA wrestler, the wrestling advantage in my eyes 100% goes to Movsar Evloev, and that's where I think the fight's going to be. So I think Movsar Evloev remains undefeated in this fight and more than likely wrestles his way to a decision. And we always mix it up We don't always entire main card. We normally throw in a prelim fight on there, so we're going to do that. But I did do Alonzo Minifield versus Eskar Mosarov. Mosarov is 7 years younger than Minifield. He has a slight size advantage over Minifield. He's the number 1 ranked professional heavyweight in the Ukraine. He's 25-7. He's got 15 wins by knockout and 7 wins by submission. He's knocked out in 3 of his 7 losses and submitted in 4 of his 7 losses. So 100% finish rate in his losses. Never lost a decision in his career. He's going to be making his UFC debut this Saturday. He's currently on a 3-fight winning streak since 2020. That includes also a 4th win in bare knuckle boxing in April of last year. So he's had about a little over a year off. His last fight was bare knuckle boxing. Good grappler, good striker, really, really good at point fighting and getting his way to a decision. He's going up against Minifield, who's got tons of power. 11-3 professional record, 8 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. He's only 1 of his 3 losses are via knockout, and it's Owen St. Preux. He's 2-1 in 2021 with wins over Fabio Charant and Ed Herman, and he lost his most recent fight in December of this past year to William Knight. He's 4-3 in the UFC, and his UFC wins include Charant, Herman, Paul Craig, and Vinces Moreira. So he's shown that he's able to deal with the guys on the ground. He's shown that he could strike with the powerful guys in that division. And I think this guy who's making his UFC debut is up against it, coming against a guy like Alonzo Minifield. I think Minifield gets him out of there within the first few rounds pretty easily. Felice Herrig versus Karolina Covalkovic, another really good one going into the in this division. Herrig is 14-9 with 9 wins via decision. She has never been knocked out in her professional career and has only been submitted in 1 of her 9 losses. She's currently on a 3-fight losing streak, though. Those losses include Karolina Covalkovic via split decision, Michelle Waterson, and then she was also submitted by Marina Jandanobia in August of 2020 at UFC 252. That was her last fight. So she's had going on 2 years off now, just shy of 2 years off. She's purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and she's got a slight size advantage over Karolina Covalkovic. Covalkovic is 12-7 with 9 wins via decision. She's only been knocked out once. That was against Jessica Andrade. She's only been submitted twice. That was Claudia Gadelha and Jessica Penne. The Jessica Penne fight was actually her most recent fight in August of last year. So she's had going on a year off. So just shy of a year off for Covalkovic. Currently on a 5-fight losing streak right now, including her knockout loss to Andrade, decision losses to Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso, and Yan Xiaonan, and then her submission loss to Jessica Andrade in her most recent fight. Covalkovic seems like she's on the decline. Felice Herrig looks like she's on the rise. Here's the thing, though. Herrig has lost 8 of her 9 fights via decision, whereas Covalkovic has won 9 of her 12 fights via decision. She's a kickboxer. She's notorious for edging out decisions and kind of just point fighting and outstriking you throughout the fight, controlling the octagon, and winning decisions. And, Herrig, she's had almost 2 years off. She lost, although it was probably 2019, late 2019, early 2020, she did lose a split decision to Karolina Covalkovic already. I'm just going to go Covalkovic again via decision. Here's the prelim fight that I spat out for us just because I like Joe Salecki. Sorry, hold on. So I personally wanted to shed a little light on his fight that's coming up this weekend. He's going up against Alex de Silva. Salecki's a black belt in jiu-jitsu under John Hazlitt. 11-3 as a professional. Won 8 wins by submission and only 1 win by knockout. Has never been submitted in his professional career, and he's only been knocked out in 1 of his losses. That was against Nicholas Mata in 2018 before he got into the UFC. He's 3-1 in the UFC. He lost his most recent fight via split decision to Jared Gordon. And his 3 UFC wins include Matt Wyman, Austin Hubbard, and Jim Miller. Alex de Silva, a little bit more experience, 10 fights more experience, 21-3 is his professional record, and he is 1-2 in the UFC. He got submitted by Alexander Yankelev, and then won a decision against Kazula Vargas. And then he also lost a decision in his most recent fight, UFC 253, against Brad Riddell. So he's had close to 2 years off as well. 13 wins via knockout, 7 wins via submission. Has never been knocked out and has only been submitted once in his professional career. I think that is what's going to kind of keep the odds close. He's plus 150, so it's very, very close odds. But he's only been submitted once in his professional career, and that's what Joe Salecki does best. He's decent on the hands. He can hurt you on the hands for sure. But if he takes you down, you're in a whirlwind of trouble, unless you're Alex De Silva, who probably has just as good as grappling. We'll see. I do got Joe Salecki mainly because of biasness, but I also think that his striking will be better than Alex De Silva. And if it goes to the ground, I got confidence in him there as well. The prelims, these two first fights, Michael Trezano, Lucien Almeida, and then Paulina Guantillo versus Karine Silva, both appear to be on the main card right now with Alex De Silva, Joe Salecki on the prelims. But the rest of the prelims are Damon Jackson versus Daniel Arruta, Zaruka Edeshev versus Ode Osborne, Benoit St. Dennis versus Nicholas Stolze, Tony Gravely will be taking on Johnny Munez Jr., Hazulis Hagmulgov versus Jeffrey Molina, Andris Michelitis will be taking on Renat Fekaret Dinov. And then Aaron Blanchfield will be taking on J.J. Aldrich in the opening fight. Huge favorite coming out from Aaron Blanchfield. We're going to take one look ahead. We have coming up UFC 275. That will be June 11th in Singapore. Going to Asia. Glover will be defending his belt against Yuri Prochazka. Valentina Shevchenko defending her belt against Talia Santos. Wally Zhang, Joanna Jędrzejczyk rematch. Jack Della Maddalena on the card. Jake Matthews on the card. Let's see who else we got. Very, very deep. Manel Kape versus Rodrigo Borantan. Very, very good fights coming up. Not this weekend, but next. Not to knock on this weekend at all, because this fight, although it is a main card, or it is a fight night, sorry, it is pretty intriguing, the fights that they have on here. The Rosenstreich versus Volkov, Evolov versus Ige should be a grappling masterclass. Menafield gets his chance to shut down another newcomer. Herrig, Covalkovic run it back from the split decision. And, of course, Salecki taking on probably the best grappler he's fought in the UFC, Alex De Silva. I guess Jim Miller is a really good wrestler, but as far as jiu-jitsu grapplers, De Silva is going to be the best jiu-jitsu fighter that Salecki's ever fought in the UFC. So a lot to look forward to this weekend. Kick back in with us next Tuesday. We'll be doing UFC 275. Until then, stay barbecued. You guys know what it is. Shout out to the PFL. They're doing their thing still Tuesdays through Thursdays.